Hi, kids. Welcome to another episode of Bible Stories with your mom. Today, I know I've said this before, but hopefully, I'm really mean it this time. Today, hopefully, we will finish up chapter 10. We are mid page 130. This is a big chapter, lots of things to talk about and do, and wars to win, and people to beat up, and things like that. So, we will. Oh, you know what? I might have to, there, rig this up a little bit different. Oh, I have my trusty microphone on, got my Santa shirt on. Says he sees what you've been reading. Oh, does he though? Okay, here we go. Elijah had announced judgment on Ahab's dynasty, so Elisha sent one of the prophets to anoint Jehu as king. The prophet went to Ramoth Gilead, where Jehu was camped with the army. He told Jehu he had a message from Elisha and asked to meet with him privately. He poured oil over Jehu's head and announced, "The Lord, the God of Israel, anoints you as king. You are to destroy the family of Ahab because they murdered the prophets." When Jehu returned to his officers, they wanted to know what the prophet had said. The word got out, and the soldiers shouted, "Jehu is king." While fighting against Aram, Joram was wounded and returned to Jezreel to recover. When Jehu heard Joram was there, he ordered his men to surround the city and not let anyone leave. As Jehu approached, Joram sent out a messenger to ask if Jehu's intentions were peaceful. The messenger didn't return, so he sent a second messenger. When he also didn't return, Joram and Hazael, king of Judah, rode out in their chariots to meet Jehu. Joram demanded to know if Jehu had come in peace, but it was too late. Joram tried to escape. Jehu killed him with an arrow. Instead of burying Joram, Jehu ordered his body left exposed on the land that had belonged to Naboth before Ahab confiscated it. Jehu was a violent assassin. When he rode into Jezreel, Jezebel shouted, "Murderer! Murderer!" from a second-story window. Jehu ordered her thrown down, and he trampled her with his horses. Later, he ordered his men to bury her because she was the daughter of a king. But when they looked for her body, they only found a skull and a few bones. Elijah's prophecy of judgment had been fulfilled. Jezebel had been eaten by dogs. Jehu also ordered the ruthless slaughter of Ahab's family, who lived in Samaria. Jehu sent a letter to the families, or to the sealed. Let me start over. Mouth isn't. Jehu sent a letter to the city's elders and the guardians of Ahab's sons. He wrote, "Select the best leader as your king and prepare to fight for Ahab's dynasty." This in-your-face challenge so terrified the elders and guardians that they said they would do whatever Jehu wanted. I kind of wonder if I'm saying Jehu right. Jehu. I mean, that's to me how you should say it, but as you know, I don't do the best with names. We shall move on. He sent a second letter telling them to bring the heads of Ahab's sons to him at Jezreel. They killed all of Ahab's sons and brought their heads to Jehu in baskets. They ordered their heads displayed overnight in 2 piles on either side of the city gate. Jehu's purge of Ahab's dynasty was not limited to the former king's immediate family. The next morning, Jehu spoke to the people and accepted full responsibility for the death of Joram and Ahab's sons. Then he killed the rest of Ahab's relatives, friends, and officials in Jezreel. He even killed relatives of King Ahaziah, who were simply going to visit the sons of Ahab. He killed all the members of Ahab's family in Samaria. He killed all the priests of Baal by deceiving them. He called for a town meeting and said, "One moment, please." He called for a town meeting and said, "Ahab's worship of Baal was nothing compared to how I will worship him." He told the people to summon all the prophets and worshippers of Baal for a great celebration. The invitation went out to all Israel. He ordered special robes for the worshippers. After they were all in Baal's temple, he gave this order to 80 men: Go in and kill all of them. Don't let a single person escape. After his soldiers killed them all with their swords and wrecked the temple, Jehu made it into a public toilet for the city of Samaria. These people are like very creative with their, what's the right word? Vengeance. Jehu completely wiped out every trace of Baal worship in Israel, but he did not destroy the golden calves set up by Jeroboam, that caused Israel to sin. I wonder why he did not wipe out the golden calves. Before the end of Jehu's rule, the Lord reduced the size of Israel's territory. Hazael of Aram considered land east of the Jordan and in the north. No, he didn't consider it. Scratch that. Let me try again. Hazael of Aram has Hazael of Aram. I looked this up and I can't remember how you say it. It's not Aram. I think it's Aram. Captured land east of the Jordan and in the north. After he had ruled for 28 years, Jehu died and was buried in Samaria. His son Jehoahaz became king. Boy, I hope I get to say that 80 times. Jehoahaz did not worship Baal, but he continued Jeroboam's idolatrous practices. This made the Lord furious with Israel, and they were defeated time and time again by Aram. Because Jehoahaz asked for the Lord's help, the Lord sent someone to rescue them, and they lived briefly in peace. By the end of Jehoahaz's 17-year rule, he had only 50 charioteers, 10 chariots, and 10,000 soldiers. Jehoahaz's son, boy, say that 10 times. Jehoahaz's son ruled over Israel for 16 years. He did not abandon the sins of Jeroboam, but continued to practice idolatry. He did, however, visit Elisha on his deathbed. While weeping for Elisha, the king saw an army of chariots. Elisha told him to get a bow and shoot an arrow out the east window. The arrow, said Elisha, is the arrow of victory over Aram. He told Jehoash to strike the ground with a handful of arrows. The king struck the ground 3 times. This made Elisha angry. He said Jehoash should have struck the ground 5 or 6 times for complete victory over the Arameans. Now he would be victorious only 3 times. Elisha's miraculous ministry continued even after his death. When a burial party of Israelites saw a band of Moabite raiders, they quickly threw the corpse they were carrying into Elisha's grave and fled. As soon as the man's body touched Elisha's bones, he sprang back to life. As Elisha had predicted on 3 occasions, Jehoash defeated Aram and recovered Israelite towns. Jehoash also went to war against Judah. He captured Amaziah, marched to Jerusalem, destroyed part of the city wall, and looted the temple and the royal palace. When Jehoash died, his son Jeroboam II became king. Israel prospered militarily and economically under his rule, but he continued the practice of idolatry. Even so, because of the Lord's faithfulness to his covenant promises, he helped Jeroboam II recover territory in the east and extended Israel's boundary beyond Damascus in the north. Now we will talk about Jonah. During Jeroboam II rule, we should call him Jerobo Jr., I think. God sent the prophet Jonah, who was from Israel, to warn take a breath here. He sent Jonah to warn Nineveh, the capital of Assyria, big shrug on that one, of God's judgment for their military savagery and demonically inspired idolatry and immorality. That's a lot of big words in one sentence. The Lord said, "Go to Nineveh and announce my judgment on that great city because they are extremely wicked." He told Jonah that. Instead, Jonah fled to the port city of Joppa and boarded a ship sailing for Tarshish, which is a city hundreds of miles in the opposite direction. On board, Jonah fell asleep only to be awakened by frantic soldiers amid a terrifying storm. Okay, pay attention, kids. We are learning the story of Jonah and the whale. If you have not heard of this story, your mother has failed, which we all know, but I'm trying to do better. So, Jonah and the whale, here we go. Terrifying storm. In desperation, the soldiers, or not the soldiers, I'm having struggles today. In desperation, the sailors cast lots to find out who had offended the gods. The lots pointed to Jonah. I'm not sure what lots are, but probably somebody smarter than me could tell you. Anyway, they pointed to Jonah, who confessed to being a runaway prophet. Jonah told them to throw him overboard to save the ship. The sailors refused at first, fearing divine wrath, but when the storm increased in intensity, they threw Jonah into the raging sea. The storm stopped immediately. The prophet didn't drown. Instead, he was swallowed by a large sea creature, which somehow, I don't know, ended up turning into a whale. Maybe biblically it was something else. Inside the fish, Jonah prayed, "I called to you, O Lord, and you answered me. The raging waters engulfed me, yet I said I would look towards your holy temple as I sank beneath the waves. You snatched me from waters of death. I will keep my vows because salvation comes from the Lord." After Jonah admitted his rebellion and promised to serve God, the fish spit him out. The Lord spoke to Jonah a second time. This time, he obeyed and went to Nineveh. The struggle is real. His preaching was surprisingly successful. These people listened to his warning that in 40 days, 40, another divine number, the city would be destroyed. They responded by repenting and fasting. Even the king exchanged his royal robes for garments of mourning. He issued a decree ordering everyone to turn away from wickedness. Because citizens of Nineveh repented, God did not destroy that city. Instead of celebrating the success of his mission, Jonah was angry. He wanted God to destroy the city, not spare it. He was so disappointed and angry that he wanted to die. "Just kill me, Lord. I'd rather die than see Nineveh survive," he complained. The Lord admonished Jonah, who went to a nearby hill and sat down, still anticipating the possibility that God would destroy the city. The hot sun made him uncomfortable, and he was relieved when the Lord caused a plant to grow that gave him shade from the scorching heat. But God sent a worm to attack the plant, causing it to wither during the night. The next day, Jonah had to endure the scorching sun and the hot wind, and he was miserable. The Lord exposed Jonah's hard-heartedness with the object lesson of the plant. The prophet was more concerned about a plant he had not created than he was about people, whom God had created. "Shouldn't I be concerned about the people of this great city?" said the Lord. Meanwhile, back in Israel, the prophets Hosea, I'm saying Hosea, I don't know that that's how you say it. Again, I should Google this. Hosea. Hosea, and Amos tried to warn Jeroboam II that there was a limit to God's mercy. He would judge Israel for their religious hypocrisy. economic greed, and ruthless exploitation of the poor. After Jeroboam II, the political and military situation deteriorated rapidly due to conspiracy and assassination. Zechariah, son of Jeroboam II, was evil and ruled Israel for only 6 months. Shallum assassinated him and declared himself king. Shallum was king for a month before he was assassinated by Menahem, who launched a scorched earth campaign to force Israel to recognize him as king. He massacred entire populations and even ripped open pregnant women. This is brutal. Menahem ruled for 10 years and never repented of the sins of idolatry. Like all the other kings before him, he persisted in the sins of Jeroboam I. I wonder if I wrote that one down in all my little notes. Nope. Okay, Jeroboam I. When the king of Assyria invaded Israel, Menahem was forced to pay tribute to prevent Israel's total destruction. Pekahiah ruled for 2 years before he was assassinated by Pekah. Both kings persisted in idolatrous religion. Oh, here's a fun one. Tiglath-Pileser, I have no idea. Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, again, invaded Israel a second time and captured several towns, deporting the citizens to Assyria. If you say it really fast, maybe people will just not pay attention. Pekah's 20-year-old rule ended when he was assassinated by Hoshea. Hoshea was evil, though not to the same extent as previous kings. Forced to pay heavy tribute to the king of Assyria, he formed an alliance with King So of Egypt. So, I'm probably saying that wrong too. When Assyria discovered the conspiracy, they captured Hoshea and took him to Assyria. The Assyrians invaded Israel and devastated the land. After a 3-year siege, they captured Samaria and deported the population to other locations in their empire. I feel like this is a lot of history condensed in a little short few pages. The fall of Israel was not because of superior Assyrian military might. God would have protected his people if they would have remained faithful to him. But instead of worshiping the Lord, they rejected him, bowing to worthless idols and detestable pagan gods of the nations. They despised the warning of the prophets and stubbornly refused to obey the Lord until he became so angry he exiled them from the promised land. In addition to deporting Israelites, the Assyrians resettled foreigners in the land of Israel. The Lord killed some of them with lions because they worshipped their gods. When this was reported to the king of Assyria, he ordered one of Israel's exiled priests return to the land to teach the foreigners how to worship. He returned to Bethel and taught the people from other nations how to worship the Lord. But instead of worshiping only the Lord, each nation continued to worship its own gods. Though the Lord had made a covenant with his people and commanded them to worship only him, their faith became a confusing mixture of the worship of the Lord and the gods of the nations. Okay, that is the end of chapter 10. That was a big chapter. Obviously, I kind of fell off on doing my investigative work on figuring out how to say the names, and I will look upon that later and probably be super embarrassed. But, we're getting through it. So I was thinking the other night about my summary of the Old Testament so far. And to me, the Old Testament so far has been basically God having to prove himself over and over and over and over to the people that he created. And and then they listen for a little while and then they stop listening and do their own thing, and then he has to get their attention somehow, which is usually by force. by something awful happening, plagues and destruction and devastation of some kind. And then he gets their attention, and then they're like, okay, well, we'll behave and worship you again, and yada, yada, yada. So far, that is my interpretation of the Old Testament. I am not a biblical student by any means, um, which is another reason why I'm looking forward to the New Testament, because that's something to look forward to, right? Because Jesus gets introduced, and then there's just all sorts of good things to come from that. So that's a teaser, a spoiler alert for things ahead to keep your attention, because it's not all kill, kill, die, die, smite, smite. Good things are coming, but there are also kind of sad things coming too, but many lessons to learn. Anyway, always remember that I love you, my children. Good night.